everyone is telling companies, whether it's a consultant or a firm you hire, use AI. That's like the buzzword, right? Every day, use AI, deploy AI, train your employees on AI, move fast, all these AI. But I think many companies are about to discover something very uncomfortable. As you guys noticed, if you work for an organization, you will see that AI usage is growing faster than business value. And if nobody manages token spend, AI becomes just another operating expense, and it's a huge one. It's going to be a huge one. AI usage is not the same as AI value, being created. I talk to people inside, big companies and large organizations. I follow what's happening across industries, and one pattern keeps showing up. Token spend is growing, but productivity isn't. There's nothing to show for. People are generating more text, more emails, polished PowerPoints, summary of a summary, but revenue, customer outcomes, speed, not moving much. There's nothing to show for. Today, I want to talk about why large companies need to start watching AI token spend before AI turns into the next uncontrolled operating expense. Welcome back. I'm Shankar, 47-year-old engineer and biohacker. Want to live until 99 with my health AI Iris. If you haven't watched my previous videos, I document everything. This channel is about practical AI, health, business. That AI I use AI to, for my own business and for my own health, and also building systems that actually work. I'm very optimistic about AI. If you watch all my videos, right, I'm thrilled about AI. Again, it has its use case, and people don't understand it's like playing with fire. But optimism without discipline becomes cost. And I think this is one of the biggest management challenges, for the next month, for next few years, right? Not model quality, because the quality is getting exponentially better every day, every week, right? But governance, discipline, that matters. Okay, here's what I think many execs underestimate. AI feels free, right? So, for me personally, if you use AI for personal use, $20 a month, you are allocated a certain token per day or per month, depending on the model, and then you use it, you play with it, develop apps or whatever, and then you move on, right? So imagine for a big company, employees open a browser, ask question, generate slides, rewrite documents, you know, generate code. And because each interaction feels tiny, nobody notices, right? But at enterprise scale, imagine thousands of employees, multiple teams, multiple models, millions of requests per day. These small actions just compound, explode. Now imagine, different departments, sales using AI, engineering department using AI, support using AI, marketing using AI, even HR using AI, right? Every department gets encouraged. Use more AI, more AI. What happens? People optimize for activity, not outcomes, right? That's dangerous. It's like a fad diet, or the trendy thing now that the new kid in the block is AI, and you are encouraged to use it. So now everybody's like, oh yeah, what, I want to try it. And they just use it without even thinking, but they don't optimize the outcome, right? So they just keep using it, you know for something very, very small that doesn't even need AI. So there's another issue nobody talks about. If employees believe use AI or fall behind, or worse, use AI or lose your job, guess what happens? That's a threat. If you go work in a corporation today, right? That, if you're like 50, 60, you've been told by your manager or your CEO or CTO, right? Go use AI. Otherwise, your job is gone. You see in the headlines, like 5,000 people laid off, 10,000 people laid off, right? So it's the fear, right? As soon as a company says, hey, go use AI, what are you going to do? As a normal human being, you know what? Gonna go launch whatever, whatever you have, Copilot or Claude or Gem, whatever tokens you have as a corporation, as a company, you're gonna start chugging in and asking, something as mundane as write me an email. That should be your basic task to begin with, right? So The usage spikes not because people found value, because people want to signal adoption to the management or to your management to your manager. You start seeing AI used for writing normal emails, polishing presentations, meeting summaries, formatting documents, tasks that create little business value. These are all like bullshit tasks, right? I've seen it, with my own eyes. Meanwhile, critical bottlenecks stay untouched. That creates a dangerous illusion, right? Execs see AI usage. They're just like, oh wow, AI usage is so high. Man, I'm going to be so pumped because the production is going to be higher. But guess what? That's not the case. Let me share my screen real quick. I created this little diagram or a picture. So look at this, right? AI usage doesn't mean business value. And I think a lot of these big companies are now realizing it slowly. And I think by end of this year, this is going to be a bigger news everywhere. So here's a funnel, right? So let's say a big corporation, let's assume 1,000 employees get AI access. Let's say, company size of 1,000. So everybody gets AI access, right? So 500 use AI weekly. They start exploring the other 500. They say, you know what, I don't have time, or they're just afraid, right? 150 save some time out of the 500. 150 see small wins. 30 solve real bottlenecks, right? And then actually 5 create measurable revenue, right? That's it. It's very few drive real business outcomes. So look at this. So you're spending tokens on 500 of these employees out of 1,000, right? And then out of those, only 150 save some time, right, using AI, in the workflow. And then out of those, only a very handful actually solve real bottlenecks. And then actually, even after that, 5 create measurable, revenue that you can directly tie to the top line. So the token spend keeps climbing, and the value is not there. So the this reminds me of the cloud adoption years ago, right? If you guys remember, decade ago, cloud, everything is cloud. Companies measured, migration percentage, right? They didn't measure not business outcomes. Now with AI, many companies measure number of prompts, number of users, token consumption, hours spent. Again, those are all wrong metrics, right? Just because you used $1 million worth or $100,000 worth of tokens, or you have 1,000 users are using those tokens, doesn't mean you are adding value to your top line, or it's adding any, or it's solving any real world problems for your own company, right? So the measure should be revenue impact, cycle time reduction, customer satisfaction, defect reduction, decision speed, actual business outcomes. Those are the metrics you should be actually measuring, not the other way around, like token usage or how many users are using AI today, right? This is why I tell companies, don't start broad, start narrow, right? If you watch my videos, I say solve a problem, your problem. Start narrow, find one bottleneck, assign 1 or 2 people. If you're a big corporation, that's the way to do it. Assign 1 or 2 people, or maybe 3. Give them ownership, give them token budget. Say, hey, you are getting X amount of tokens, right? Define success. Don't say willy nilly, hey, adopt AI. Don't scare your employees, managers, VPs, directors, whatever. Don't scare your employees. Use AI, or quit, or you're going to be fired, right? You got to give them direction. You got to give them a purpose. Not AI is not meant for everybody at work level. Okay. Personal level, personally, I feel like everybody should use AI, but at a work level, at a big corporation, AI is not for everybody. All right. Define success. Tell them, you know, instead of say everyone use AI, try like saying reduce support ticket resolution by 20%, right? Cut proposal turnaround from 3 days to one, or trouble tickets, right? Reduce engineering debugging time. If you're into coding, let's reduce the debugging time from, I don't know, 24 hours, 48 hours to maybe 24 hours, right? You got to be focused problems, focused measurement, focused spend, then scale, right? If it works for one small bottleneck for your company, then take that and then adopt and implement to another department in your company or in your organization, right? You cannot just go, blanket approach, say, tell everybody to use AI. Large companies have structural challenge, right? Multiple business units, different incentives. You got large IT organizations, many stakeholders, many layers. Nobody owns end-to-end outcomes. That's why, I tell in my previous videos, all my videos, a person who wants to know about AI or wants to be the decision maker of, picking AI, they need to know end to end. Otherwise, you're going to waste money because everybody spends, right? That's where AI spend quietly grows because everybody spends, nobody measures. That's not an AI problem, that's a management problem, right? That's what the big companies are going to fail. They're going to realize soon, as soon as they're going to go, report their spending or their quarterly earnings to the Wall Street, they're going to realize that OPEX spend is like, oh crap, where's this extra cost coming from? They're just burning money. Let me share my screen again. So if you see the headlines, um, people are already talking about, right? Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, right? They're already concerned about this token maxing. That's the term now. Recent reporting described internal concerns that broad AI usage can explode cost, especially with agentic workflows. One report claims some employees optimize for showing AI adoption rather than business impact, and agentic systems can consume orders of magnitude more tokens than normal chat workflows. This is exactly what I addressed. This is another one I caught my eye. Salesforce publicly planning huge token spend, right? Salesforce CEO Mark said Salesforce expects to spend around $300 million. Guys, that's $300 million on Anthropic tokens in 2026, especially for coding and AI software initiatives. So think about this, right? It's like spending $300 million extra on your electric bill or a gas bill or water bill. That's how it sounds like on a company, balance sheet. This is huge. So to summarize, right, closing, my prediction, right, over the next few years, companies won't ask, how do we increase AI usage? They're going to learn the lesson pretty quick. A lot of them are already learning it. They will ask, which AI usage actually matters? The winners won't be the companies with the most prompts. They'll be the companies with the best operating discipline. Use AI. Again, my message is use AI to solve bottlenecks, right? Measure value. Without value, you cannot be just writing checks, paying bills on these tokens. Control spend, scale what works. And if it doesn't work, in my previous video, I covered Starbucks and Pizza Hut example. Starbucks paid expensive lesson. I think they tried that inventory tool. They over-engineered it with AI. And then I don't know what's the cost, probably millions of dollars. Bad customer experience, bad store experience, employee experience. They learned after 6 months, they just pulled the plug on it, right? Don't go big. Scale what works. Because if AI becomes another uncontrolled operating expense, OPEX eventually wins, right? Again, comment below what's the most unnecessary use of AI you ever seen at work. And I know everybody who's at work, 9 to 5, you heard this term AI and you're being forced to use AI. Again, think about it. If you like this video, subscribe, like. I talk about AI, health is my passion, and then I, cover a lot of other topics related to AI. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you like it, give me thumbs up. I appreciate it.